You know the posters I'm talking about, right? You see them on ships, in corporate offices. They always have these calming colors, maybe a nice lighthouse in the background, promising this perfect world of safety. Well, today we're going to dive into the big idea behind all of that, something called a just culture in shipping. And here's the thing, it's a concept that everybody talks about, but as we're about to find out, it's something very, very few people have ever actually seen in the wild.
And this is the big promise right here, the no blame culture. It's supposed to be the bedrock of modern safety. The idea is simple. Create an environment where any crew member can stick their hand up and report a near miss or even a mistake they made and do it openly and honestly without worrying about losing their job. Sounds pretty good, doesn't it? Almost perfect.
But you talk to a lot of seafarers, and that beautiful slogan, it gets a slightly different translation out in the real world. It's not so much no blame as it is, we won't blame you immediately. And that one little word, that tiny pause, it changes everything. That's the first crack we see in that perfect glossy safety poster. And that right there, that's the paradox we're going to get into. How can an idea that everyone agrees is brilliant in theory feel so completely different in practice? So what's really going on here? What's happening in that gap between the inspirational poster on the wall and the actual gritty reality on the deck of a ship? Well, it really just boils down to that classic battle, doesn't it? Theory versus reality. On one hand, you've got the perfectly written safety manual, all neat and tidy, probably put together in a nice, comfortable office. And on the other hand, you've got a tired crew out at sea dealing with a very real problem, maybe in the middle of a storm. Two totally different worlds.
And look, let's be absolutely clear. The theory itself is brilliant. It really is. A true just culture is all about encouraging people to report things, taking away that fear of getting punished. And this is the really crucial part, focusing on fixing the system, not just blaming the person. The whole point is to learn from the small stuff, the near misses, before they turn into something catastrophic.
Okay, so let's circle back to those safety posters for a second, because they are the perfect window into this massive gap between the official line and the reality. Think of this next part as a quick translation guide for what these slogans actually feel like to the people on the receiving end. What's so incredible about this is how perfectly it captures that cynicism that can build up. Speak up just sounds like, please create more paperwork for us. We learn from mistakes gets translated into after we figure out who needs retraining. And my personal favorite, safety is everyone's responsibility. Yeah, that starts to feel like it means it's particularly your responsibility. So all of this cynicism, it leads directly to a massive problem with how incidents get reported. Because the moment fear creeps into the system, those honest, messy, and genuinely useful reports, they disappear. And they get replaced by something else entirely. Beautifully written, carefully crafted works of, well, creative fiction. So why does this happen? Well, it's pretty much a domino effect. Just think about it. A near miss happens out at sea. Okay, step one. But then you remember safety metrics are tied to performance reviews, maybe even bonuses. And that performance is tied to the company's reputation. And of course, reputation is tied to commercial success. All of a sudden, being completely honest about that near miss starts to look really, really expensive. And the result of all that pressure? You get this, sanitized storytelling. And look, this isn't about people telling outright lies, not usually. It's more about carefully editing reality. You shave off the messy details, you smooth out the rough edges, all to avoid triggering a full-blown investigation that might make those performance numbers look bad. So what you get are these reports that say things like, minor deviation observed, no immediate risk identified, corrective action implemented. It's all so vague, so clean, so professional. But what it really means is, look, we handled it. Please, whatever you do, don't escalate this. And just like that, a golden opportunity to actually learn something important is gone. Poof, lost forever. Okay, so what happens when an incident does get reported? When something can't be smoothed over? Well, the industry often has this favorite go-to solution. It's like a knee-jerk reflex. It looks great on paper, very decisive and proactive, but more often than not, it completely misses the point. So, an alarm was muted, maybe because it was faulty and driving everyone crazy? The answer? Retrain everyone on alarm management. A crew member bypassed some ridiculously complicated procedure just to get the job done safely and on time? You guessed it. Retrain them on the procedure.
A checklist got ignored? Oh, you already know the answer. We're going to retrain, and retrain some more. It's the easiest fix in the book. And, hey, it generates some great-looking attendance sheets for the next audit, right? But you have to stop and ask the really uncomfortable question here. Does this retrain everything reflex actually fix a single thing? I mean, was the procedure even workable in the first place? Was that constantly blaring alarm maybe a sign of a much deeper equipment problem? Or are we just choosing to ignore all the complex system flaws because it's so much easier to just check a box that says retraining complete? And this really gets to the heart of the conflict. It's like there are two warring cultures in the industry. On one side, you have this noble idea of a learning culture that's all about being proactive and asking, why did this happen? But the second money, insurance, or lawyers enter the picture, a much more powerful liability culture kicks in. And it is a reactive culture, and it only cares about one question: who is to blame? Okay, so if that's the problem, what on earth does the solution look like? I mean, what would a real just culture, one that actually lives and breathes beyond the posters and the feel-good slogans, what would that actually look like in practice? Well, for starters, a genuine just culture would fix the broken procedures instead of just retraining people to follow them. It would completely separate safety reporting from performance scores, so you're not punished for being honest. It would go out of its way to protect the people who report the inconvenient, messy findings. And maybe most important of all, it would understand the massive difference between an honest human error and actual negligence. And honestly, this distinction is everything. Human error, that's just an unintentional slip. It's a mistake that anyone could make under the right or wrong circumstances. That's an opportunity to learn. Negligence, on the other hand, is a conscious choice to disregard the rules. That's a totally different beast. That's an accountability issue. A real just culture knows the difference, and crucially, it treats them differently. But let's be real about why this is all so difficult. Here's the hard truth. Fixing people seems easy, right? You just retrain him or you replace him. But fixing a complex system, oh, that's hard. That takes work. It means admitting that your own procedures might be the problem. It requires real, uncomfortable change, and that stuff rarely looks good on a quarterly report. And that brings us full circle, right back to what we can call the unicorn problem. A true, functioning just culture has basically become the unicorn of the maritime world. It's this beautiful, perfect idea that everyone discusses at conferences and holds up as the ideal, but it's something you almost never ever see in its pure form out in the wild. At the end of the day, this is what it all boils down to. The industry doesn't need more pretty posters with lighthouses on them. It needs fewer knee-jerk reactions. Because safety at sea doesn't get better when people are scared into staying silent. It gets better when they feel safe enough to actually speak up and tell the truth. And you know, that's the thought I really want to leave you with. Because this isn't just about shipping, is it? This applies to any team, in any company, in any field. Real improvement only happens when people feel safe enough to speak. So the final question is, does your team